Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Alison. I write as Alison May, half of Juliet Bell, and most recently as Sinclair. And here on YouTube I talk about writing, books and all things publishing most Fridays, usually every Friday. At the moment we've gone down to once a fortnight because my house is in disarray. Hence the unusual backdrop. I've been wandering around my house all afternoon trying to find somewhere that I could film. We're having a new roof put on at the moment, so we've got scaffolding up. There are people above my head doing things with hammers and tiles and angle grinders and all that stuff. So finding like a quiet, not dust covered spot to film is a little bit of a challenge at the moment. But anyway, we are here and it is book review week. I've got 4 books we're going to talk about this week. So 2 rom-coms, 1 slightly more literary, and then 1 total wildcard. So we're going to have a little chat about those and then I will bid you farewell. But if book reviews, writing tips, publishing industry insight is the sort of content that you want on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you get notifications whenever I have a new video. For now, into this week's video. So let's start in the world of rom-com. And since I last talked to you during February, I read 2 Sophie Kinsellas. I've had a bit of a Sophie Kinsella phase. I think there was a Sophie Kinsella in my January reading roundup. And this month I read Love Your Life and Surprise Me. So surprising that the title was a surprise to me there and I momentarily couldn't remember it. But I've read both of these Sophie Kinsellas this month and I really enjoyed both of them. I read them right at the start of the month fairly quickly, and I'll be really honest, when I was sitting down to record this video, I could remember, you know, when I looked at the Sophie Kinsella page on a popular book retail site, I could remember the 2 covers. I was like, oh yeah, I read that one and that one, fine. Honestly couldn't fully remember what both of them were about, but having read the first line of both the blurbs, it's come back to me. What that tells you, I think, is that these were both books that I really enjoyed while I was reading them. They were fun, they were light, they were escapist, but maybe they didn't kind of stay with me. Now, that's not a criticism. I don't think things necessarily have to stay with you for weeks later and make you think to be worth reading and to be worth your time. I enjoyed both these books when I was reading them. So Love Your Life is about a couple who meet on a retreat. They have this perfect whirlwind romance in this bubble of the retreat, and then they come home utterly convinced that they're in love and that they're destined to be together, and they have to try and make it work in the real world. And as soon as they're thrust into each other's real lives, they start to find out things about each other that maybe aren't such a perfect match. So it's about the kind of contrast between that sort of romantic fantasy and reality, and whether or not you can really turn one into something that works in the other. It's a really fun read. I absolutely loved it while I was reading it. Realistically, I'll probably be able to read it again in like 5 years' time and have no recollection that I've read it before. Surprise Me has a slightly different setup, and I was quite interested in this one. This was the one where the blurb really appealed to me. So this is about a long-term relationship. This is about a couple who have been married already. They have children. They've been together for 10 years plus, and they have a moment, something happens that causes them to have a moment where they look forward and realise that they could be together for another 60 or 70 years. And that kind of terrifies them. And they start to worry, particularly the wife in this relationship starts to worry that they might be stuck in a rut. There might be no way that they can keep this relationship interesting. Rather than it's feeling safe and comfortable and warm, it suddenly feels claustrophobic and oppressive and a bit scary, the idea of being with that one person forever. So they set about this project where they're going to try to surprise one another. There's a sort of psychological need to prove that they're not stuck in a rut and that they can still have a fresh, exciting relationship. Now, as a setup, this really appealed to me. I think probably of the 2, though, I enjoyed reading it slightly less. And I think that's not to do with the book at all, it's to do with where I am in my life. So I've been married for about 108 years. I'm going to do maths, bear with. I've been married for just over 20 years. And, you know, it's fine. I don't have that kind of existential dread at the thought of being with this person for another 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You know, I'm a bright person. If you get married at 25 and you intend to make it work, I think you should have already internalised the notion that going to be with this person for a really, really long time. And we'd already been together 7 years, I think, when we got married. So I've actually been with my husband now for 27 years. And it's fine. So I think there were just some moments in this book where the main characters didn't really kind of chime with me, when they were saying like, oh, we've been together 10 years already and we're already kind of stuck in a rut and really predictable. I kind of was like, 10 years is nothing, puh, lightweights. So although I enjoyed it, it kind of just didn't speak to me where I am in my life. There were a few bits in it that kind of made me roll my eyes a little bit. Whereas Love Your Life, totally different situation to where I am in my life, brand new relationship. And that in a way, although the blurb didn't appeal as much, it felt more like a kind of straight down the line rom-com, couple get together and we see whether they're going to be able to make it work. Actually, I think I probably enjoyed reading that book more. But both were fun. Love Sophie Kinsella. She is one of my go-tos for when I just want something that's going to be escapist, it's going to be uplifting, it's going to bring me joy. And she absolutely delivers that again and again and again and again and again. And that is something that I think we should never, never underrate or downplay. So those are my two rom-coms that I read during February. I also read... I'm just going to check the title of this one. Claire Keegan's Small Things Like These. So Small Things Like These, some of you might have heard about. It was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. It's a very thin little volume. I did buy a physical copy of it, which I obviously now can't find. Yes, I can find. It's on the table. It's just literally behind the camera. Wait. I can find it. It was hidden by a chocolate bar. Chocolate bar. Yeah, so Claire Keegan, Small Things Like These. Very slim little volume. It is only... the story itself finishes on page 110, and then there's a little author's note and some acknowledgements. But yeah, 110 pages. And the novel, well, novella really, yeah, only 110 pages. So, very slim little volume, set in Ireland in the 1980s, in rural Ireland, and it touches on themes of poverty, it touches on the Magdalen laundries, and the cruelties and the abuses that were carried out there. This is an absolutely beautifully written book. The prose style is exceptional. And this was my book group book for February. So I read it, you know, with a group. Well, I didn't read it with a group. We don't all sit together and read in silence. We read it separately and then came and talked about it. That's how book groups work. So we discussed it as a group. And absolutely everyone else in the group loved this book. It was probably... our book group's been meeting for about a year now, and this I would say was probably the most universally loved of all the books. I didn't love it, but I can appreciate how well done it was. The prose style is beautiful. For me, I think I just wanted something more. Maybe I wanted the novel version of this. Or, slightly contradictorily, maybe I wanted the short story version of this. For me, it sort of fell a little bit between two stools in that it wasn't kind of explored enough and with as much richness and as much depth. With as much richness and with as much depth as you might get in a full-length 300 or 350, 400 page novel. But it didn't quite have that precision and focus that you would look for in a short story of maybe 5,000 words. It sort of fell somewhere in between. And for me, I think felt slightly unsatisfying as a result. which is to take nothing away from the author's achievement. It's beautifully written, the prose style is wonderful, the drawing of the world, this rural Irish village that she creates, and the hints of the relationships between the church and the kind of establishment, and all of those things is just exceptionally put across. For me, it just didn't quite hit the mark, but everyone else absolutely loved it. And as I say, it's only small, so it's a really quick read. So I would recommend reading it for sure. I'd be really interested to hear what people think of this, actually. So if you do read this, do drop into the comments and let me know what you thought, because it's an interesting book. I didn't fall in love with it. I think I found that I mentally appreciated the technique and appreciated the quality of the writing, but emotionally just didn't quite grab me. Whereas other people in my book club said they were in tears reading it. So that, you know, clearly is just me. Not everything quite works for everybody. That is fine. But I'd be really interested to hear other people's responses. And finally, book number 4 that I read during February is a total wild card, and possibly will give you a little spoiler hint about what I might be writing next, because I have just written I've just read The Crime Writer's Guide to Police Practice and Procedure. This is by Michael O'Byrne. There are various books on this sort of theme out there. I've got another one on my to read pile for next month, which is Murder Investigation Team by Steve Keogh, which is about how murder investigations work in real life rather than on TV and fiction. But this month's read, The Crime Writer's Guide to Police Practice and Procedure, this weirdly was a total page turner. Obviously it's a book that I picked up, it's a library book. I picked it up because I wanted to read it for professional purposes. I might be thinking about writing a crime novel, never say never. And I was expecting to sort of dip into it, maybe make some notes. I wasn't expecting to kind of sit and read the whole thing, but actually I started off reading and making notes and read the whole book in an afternoon, which is kind of surprising for what is effectively a textbook. But it's just really, really interesting. The author, Michael O'Byrne, has a really nice style. It's informative and detailed and just a little bit opinionated, so you feel you're getting a sense of kind of not just the information he's conveying, but who he is as an individual as well. You're getting a bit of his opinion on things. And I really enjoyed reading it and found it really, really useful for what I wanted, which was getting a bit of a background on police procedure, with a mind to potentially putting that into a book. So if you are a writer who is thinking about writing crime fiction, or just who is thinking about including an investigation, a mystery, a crime thread in any other genre, I would say this was well worth a read. The Crime Writer's Guide to Police Practice and Procedure, Michael O'Byrne. Recommended. My writing book recommendation for the month. We might do one of these every month. Books that are aimed at writers. We might not. I keep thinking, hey, we could do that every month, and then the following month I don't. So, you know, you never know. So those are my book reviews for February. I know it's March now, but there were the books I read during February. We will have another book review at the end of March. It will probably be 2 weeks now until my next video. So I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Do drop into the comments if you've read any of those titles and you want to share what you thought of them. And do let me know in the comments if you have any questions at all about writing craft or about the publishing industry, and I will be happy to try and tackle those in a future video. For now, subscribe to the channel and I will see you in 2 weeks' time.